Welcome to Local Leverage, your competitive edge in business. As always, today's show is brought to you by PropertyRadar, the hyper-local lead generation platform for small local businesses. Today, we're sitting down with Betz, a no-fluff mortgage coach and one of the top mortgage brokers in the country. In this episode, we're going to break down how he generates 65% of his business from past clients year over year, how to stand out in a sea of loan officers, and how sales activities position you for success. Let's dive right into it. Wade, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking some time with me and hope to make it a good one for you.
I'm sure it will be. And I want to start off our conversation just with a story I heard you tell, and I thought it was humorous and enlightening. And it was about a manager of yours that had talked to you about the head of lettuce analogy. And he was basically making the comment that, when a consumer is selecting a loan officer or a loan, it's like buying a head of lettuce. Like they all look the same. And I'm curious about what you do to make yourself stand out, and so you don't look like every other broker.
Yeah. So everyone's got to have a LVP, lender value proposition. And essentially it's going to be something probably a little bit different for a client versus a referral partner. And so when that coach asked me, what my LVP was at the time, I thought she was joking, and she's like, "No, I'm serious. Go right now. Give me your elevator speech." And I bombed it. And I had been in the industry, I think like almost 10 years now at that point. And she's like, "Oh, like you need to work on that." And she was kind, but she's like, "Because from where I sit, you look like every other mortgage banker out there." And that's when she called me a head of lettuce. I'm just like, oh my God. It hurts. She was not wrong. And I wasn't a spring chicken. Like I had closed hundreds of millions of dollars in volume by then. And she's like, you need to basically stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So when someone asks you that question, you need to be able to articulate an answer. So for clients, essentially my LVP is, I am convinced that your retirement is better off because of me rather than in spite of me. So just getting you to the closing table, that's expected. That's the bare minimum. If you can do it with a communicative process, even better. And if it's systematized, so my favorite acronym is SWEAT, same way every time. And if you do that, you will create a referable experience. But even so, getting it to the closing table is expected.
Sure.
What comes after is the differentiation. Because right now in mortgage, all these mega servicers out there, the Mr. Coopers of the world, they're coming after your past clients. So if you don't have a rock solid post-closing client retention system, you've lost.
Absolutely.
Every month that you don't touch your past client database, you lose 10% of your influence with them. So you've got to have something. And there's a difference between playing offense versus defense. So you need a mixture of both. And so essentially the key, the linchpin for all of this, the whole your retirement is better off because of me rather than in spite of me, like you have to do an annual financial review with your clients, not an annual mortgage review. No one with a 3% rate thinks they need a mortgage review, but they need a financial review because most of America doesn't have their financial house in order. Right. They might need referrals to estate planning attorneys and insurance brokers and so on and so forth. So it's just like you got to stay relevant. And I and my colleagues, we are in the liability management business, unlike financial advisors who are in the asset management business. So we're the opposite sides of the same coins. And if you really stop and think about it, the average American, like maybe 30%, a third of America has a financial planner, whereas 2/3 has a home. So loan officers might not realize it. They might be the most qualified financial planner in their client's life. You might be it. So you got to sharpen your saw and make sure you're giving people good advice to set them up for success.
Yeah. And I don't think that that's also necessarily understood or intuitive to the consumer either, that resource is available, or because they look at you like the head of lettuce, or they look at you as like, this is the guy that's just going to get me this loan and get me closed, not thinking about all of those other elements. So I definitely want to dig into that a little bit more as we go. I really liked that, stay ready so you don't have to get ready comment. I think that's a great takeaway from that first question there. And And there's a lot in there. I don't want to unpack all these different pieces. But let's talk a little bit more about that, differentiation. And, everybody says, oh, I provide great service or I can get you the lowest rates, but how should a mortgage professional show up in that first connection so that they both stand out and also get a second look?
So how you're referred matters. So I'm a big believer in building a referral-based business. Essentially, I kind of joke that I want you to be an outdoor cat. So if you want to be an indoor cat and get fed, that's working for a bank. That's working for a company that pays for leads. If you want the real big commission checks and the freedom that comes with it, you have to self-source your business. So be an outdoor cat. Okay. Now, how you do that is a different story. So I kind of liken it to a business cake, if you will. I want you to build a 3-layer cake, and the layers are realtors, past clients, and centers of influence. That's the cake. Okay. Refinances are the icing on the cake. So if you have a cake with too much icing, it doesn't taste good. Okay. So there's a recipe for how you do that and how you scale, essentially.
I was recently talking to a very high producing team lead. He has got a pretty large sales organization, but they're on pace to, I think, fund $1 billion this year. So that gives you the scale there, and they are an indoor cat. They're buying leads as fast as they can buy them. And one of the things that stood out in conversation with him was that he's finding that the typical close time from the point that the lead emerges is like 21, 22 days on average. So it's a fairly aged lead. And maybe this is just the nature of being an indoor cat and feeding off of that. But it made me think that there's a lot that has to happen in that first connection point and maybe the subsequent connections so that you stay top of mind, because it's not closing right away, right? And
No.
Is that a function of that type of a lead source, or is this something that you see as well?
Yeah. And so essentially, if you're building a warm referral business, which is exactly what I do, how you're referred matters. Okay. So and it's called the triangle for trust. Essentially, if you trust the person and they trust the person, we should trust each other. So that's a very simplistic explanation. So if you've got the triangle for trust, make it easy for your referral partner to refer you. So like I've got a how to refer the Betz team template for how I want them to refer me. So whether it's a text introduction, here's what I want you to say. If it's an email introduction, here's what I want you to say. So make it easy for your referral partner to refer you, and then ask them, how do you want to be referred? Because I can promise you almost no one has asked them that directly. So make it easy. So if that's what you're trying to do to get teed up for success, like outline the play and have your partner, the agent or referral partner, run the play with you. Your conversion rate will be a lot better. That's how you show up on that first call and get a second date. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you really stop and think about it, about half the people you get referred should be applying. And then from there, you'll have a handful that don't go through the process of getting fully pre-approved, or maybe they can't get pre-approved, but you should have a good chunk, 35%-ish of your leads should be fully pre-approved, and you should close a big chunk of that. So it's just, you got to have systems at every step of the way to minimize fallout and maximize conversions.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think that I would assume that your leads then are probably not only closing at a higher rate, but they're also closing a bit faster as a result of that.
I think there's two things that are important: speed and accuracy. Of the two, accuracy is far more important. And the average LO, we have to protect ourselves from ourselves. We want to say yes as fast as possible with as little documentation as possible. And that's where your ops team needs to kind of come in and be the bumper lanes on the bowling alley so that you don't end up in the gutter.
Yeah.
So speed matters because time kills deals, but you got to be thorough. If you're a loan officer just throwing junk against the wall and hoping that it sticks, that's not going to cut it. And so my philosophy is I want to strive for 5. So when we submit a file into underwriting, I want 5 or fewer borrower facing conditions when it comes out of underwriting. So if it has 3, 4, or 5 conditions, that file is closing on time with a happy client. You start talking about like 10 plus conditions, borrower facing conditions, that file is going to close ugly or maybe not at all. And now you've
Yeah.
got real problems. And most of that can be tied back to how thorough the origination team is on the front end. And loan officers don't like hearing that. It's got to be the thumbs, not the fingers. So the origination team is the loan officer and the LOA or loan partner. Those individuals create the origination team, and it's the job of the origination team to turn in a complete file. And if you do that and you strive for 5, everything's going to pan out just fine. Like your business will be great. You'll get 5-star reviews. You'll get repeat business. But if you do a sloppy job on the front end, it's going to show, and you're going to have a hard time getting repeat business.
Yeah. I think it's really cool too that you're going so far back upstream to even help your referral partners refer you in the way you want to be positioned. I mean, that is very fundamental, but it's also something that I bet that most people do not do. And
No,
the type of lead that you receive out of that is got to be greatly differentiated from something that you're just going to go buy. I'm not a big fan of buying leads, but I know that there's people that run their business entirely on it and have successful businesses. But the concept of generating higher quality leads that are going to ultimately have a better close rate and faster close just feels so much more controllable to me.
I agree. I prefer to build a referral based business, but make no mistake, I'm trying to build a brand and attract people to me from the consumer. I mean,
Yep.
but that doesn't happen overnight. And so, just so we're crystal clear, what it takes to really generate a lot of consumer direct leads is YouTube. You've got to be consistent with YouTube. 2 long form videos per week for years is what it takes. Okay. But
Yeah.
that's the future money. The right now money is working the phones, seeing people face to face, breaking breads, events, gratitude. But you got to be a modern loan advisor as well and create content, engage with people, slide into DMs. You have to be engaging if you want engagement.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, we tend to talk about this in kind of hunter-gatherer terms.
Yeah,
So like the gathering to me is like, I'm just going to go buy leads. I'm going to find whatever scraps are laying around. I'm going to pick them up and feed off of those. Hunting is, let me find the targeted individuals that can feed me today. And
uh-huh.
then to your point, this kind of longer term nurturing or farming is maybe where you're establishing brand and establishing trust. And
Exactly.
and there's an evolution there, right? And to your point, those all that YouTube activity or content generation uh, is great, but it's not going to feed you tomorrow. It's going to take a long time and a lot of effort. And I think a lot of people underestimate how much energy and time that takes.
I'll tell you right now, like I'm right this second doing 2 YouTube videos per week. It took me 7 or 8 months before I got my very first lead. So, like, most loan officers are not going to spend 6 to 12 months of doing 2 videos per week. So, like, 50 to 100 videos before you get your first lead. Like,
Yeah,
you don't have the attention span for that.
right.
But then what happens is year 2, it starts to become a little bit relevant. Year 3, it's a major pillar of your business. So the people that I look up to that are further down the road in that journey than I am, that are getting better results, it's only because they've been doing it longer and have been consistent longer. So I'm not above being jealous or envious of other people's businesses, but it doesn't mean I'm just going to sit here and do nothing either. So like I'm reaching out to people that are ahead of me, asking them questions. And at the same time, like I've got people reaching out to me because I'm further down the road than they are. So I find that the people that are really good at what they do, they're more than willing to share if you reach out.
Yes, absolutely. There's another thing in that I think is really important to pull out, which is as you look towards the people that you are aspiring to become, or that maybe are your mentors in those
Mhm.
spaces. Um, one of my coaches says, like, don't look at what I'm doing now. Look at what I was doing 3 to 5 years ago and emulate that, right? Because you can't just make some quantum leap and be where I am. And
Yeah.
so I think that's also part of the game in terms of like that content creation and content publishing. So
Yeah, I've got 2 different time blocks in my calendar, one for content planning, the other for content filming. So it is not the same mindset that you have to be in to do either of those things. So to do both in one sitting, it never turns out well. So I've got 2 separate time blocks.
yeah, smart. I
Yeah.
think it's also different mental space, right? When you're
Right.
doing the planning and the thinking about it versus the actual delivery of it. So
100%.
let's talk a little bit about, I mean, this kind of hunting, gathering, farming thing, and I want to dig into the hunting in particular. So, when we're talking about I need business now, I mean, beyond the referrals, where should LOs be looking for new opportunities? Are there markets or signals or consumer situations that you find that some originators are just overlooking?
I mean, if I was a brand new loan officer today, and this is very simplistic advice, so it's a lot more nuanced, and just because it's easy for me to say doesn't mean it's easy to do. But the play is you should be working up to making 200 dials per week. You need to go to 1 industry event per week, and you should go to 5 open houses per weekend. Now, I like targeting open houses where the sales price is 500,000 to $1 million, and I usually focus on a specific zip code, and I'm trying to identify qualified agents. So the definition of that is going to vary across the country. In my market, that's probably 6 to 8 buyer sides a year, and I'm trying to find listing agents that meet those buyer agent criteria. Now, even with all the good planning, half the time the listing agent that's listing the property is not the one sitting the open house, and that's okay. You're just trying to meet as many people as possible because, again, you're new in this scenario. But it's hard to make 200 dials per day.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about 40 dials a day, all every day of the week. So it takes time to build it up to that. But you can also start with your sphere. So there's an app. I'm going to do this live for you here. So if you go to Cove Export, it's going to scan my phone. So I've got 7,000 plus people in there. I'm going to export it. And it's going to give me an option to email myself a CSV file of all the data on my phone. So that app, Cove Export, I think it's like a $5 app. So it's not free, but it's nearly free.
Cheap, yeah.
So the reality is most of us, this is our CRM, especially when we're first starting out. You got to get the information off of this into an actual CRM that you can leverage. Now, if you're like most adults, you're not the most careful at how you put your contacts in your phone. So you're going to see some pretty wild things, but clean it up. You don't need like the plumber or American Airlines or like all of the things that are in here, but just get your list and then you can start staying in front of them. So 200 dials a week, that sounds like a lot, but you can do that.
Yep.
Like there's people at these like call centers and stuff like that. They're doing hundreds of dials a day.
Yeah.
You can make 40 to 50. You can have, 10 to 15 talk tos a day. And the whole purpose of the reason you call people is for 3 reasons. Either to set a face-to-face appointment, which is what you want if you're new, to invite to an event, which again, if you don't have an event to invite them to, then you're not calling for that, and then to ask for a referral. Well, you can only ask for a referral if you're already in relationship with them. So if you're trying to establish relationships, the only reason you're calling is to set a face-to-face meeting. That's it. And you can do that a couple of ways. You can do it through open houses. You can warm them up via social first. You can use the buddy system. Hey, I like you. Who do you know that I would get along with? Can you introduce me? So who do you know that knows who you want to know? Ironically, LinkedIn is a fantastic place for that. But just ask them, like ask your divorced friends, hey, did you like your attorney? Hey, when you bought your house, did you like your realtor? You know, like your sphere can connect you to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Closed mouths don't get fed. You have to ask for what you want.
That's cool. Are you using any other mechanisms to like, quote, warm it up? Like, I mean, are you using direct mail or emails or other mechanisms to help establish brand or to kind of reinforce your presence as a way to warm up calls? Or do you
It
just get right
depends
into it?
who we're talking about. Like past clients, yeah, that's what I was saying, the difference between offense and defense. So like they get a monthly real estate wealth digest to help them track and grow their net worth with real estate. They get called on their birthday every single day. I make birthday calls to my past clients. They get invited to an annual financial review. Maybe 20% of the monthly people take me up on that, but it's a touch point. Okay. And I do some direct mail. So that's past clients. As far as like realtor partners, that's a whole different set of value proposition. So I've got like a VIP realtor partner program where I've got all the different things of value that I do for my agent partners that partner with me. And I can't do that for everybody. It's like the pyramid. Here's what I do for everybody. The next rung up gets a little bit different. The rung at the very top, they get the best of me.
Can you share a little bit of that? Like, I'm curious because this is a point that I talk about often, which is, it's not about giving agents wall calendars and coffee mugs or crap like that. It's about delivering real value to that relationship. So I'm curious, what is it at the top end of that pyramid that you're bringing that is unique and valuable to that relationship?
Yeah, my two favorite pieces. One is MoveTube, so like YouTube but with Move. So MoveTube, I absolutely love that. A very unique product in the tech stack, and I've got a special financing offer tied to it that is a big hit. So I lead with that, and then my other thing is remember that monthly real estate wealth digest that I mentioned that I
Yep.
send to my past clients. So that is a possibility for agents to do on their database as well. So now we're being co-branded on that together. And then there's a couple of services. There's two that I know of that will, for an additional fee, tell you when your client is going into open houses. They use geolocation for the cell phone to tell when your past clients are going into open houses. So it lets you, it's an early like canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
So which of your past clients are shopping. Now maybe they're going with a friend, maybe they're going with a kid or whatever. Doesn't matter. So that is amazing to have something that the open rates on those are 70+%. And then the agent, if they want to pay for that additional data, they can. It's like 25 extra bucks or whatever. But my point, my struggle, not my point, my struggle is that the average agent doesn't have their database in a format that they can import into that system. Most of them don't treat it like a business. They're a hobbyist. And that's just a general statement. But that's the struggle I've seen is that I've got some of these really good value propositions and they can only use a handful of them sometimes because of how organized they are or lack
Yeah.
thereof. So stuff like that. Like there's other things in my tech stack that I would do, but those are two of my favorites.
What was the moment that you realized, either for yourself or maybe through the folks that you work with, where you realized that ignoring the database had this huge cost? And how did that realization come about? And it sounds like you talk a lot about CRM, talk a lot about extracting these records. What was it that caused you to have that epiphany?
That wasn't my experience. So I am very fortunate that I've taken care of my past clients for my entire 20-year career. And there's not a year that goes by that I get less than 65% of my closings from my past clients. So
Yeah.
I say that to people and they get wide-eyed and they ask me like, what are you doing? And as good as I am, I'm not as good as Mr. Cooper at retaining my clients. They're the gold standard. I hate to say it. I'm just way better than the average loan officer at staying in front of my past client database. So when I first got into coaching, like literally, I think I had a single digit percentage of my business coming from real estate agents. So for me, it was, my coach was like, wait, I don't want you to do less past client business from a percentage basis. I want you to keep the numbers the same. I just
Right.
want the other pillars to increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I've spent a lot of time building out value propositions for my real estate agents and things like that. Cause literally I barely had it, barely. So I'm the opposite of how most loan officers exist in this industry, but I've done, nearly $1 billion in closings and I've got thousands of past clients. So I know there's absolutely gold in there if I just mine for it.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come to you. It's not their job to remember you. It's your job to make sure that they can't forget. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to ask about that quote. I've heard you say that before. And, yeah, so break that down. How do you recommend folks do that? I mean, you've talked about a couple of different outreach points, whether it be birthdays or things like that. How else are you doing that to make sure that you're top of mind and also trustworthy, not just top of mind, but trustworthy?
So trust these days is not only from the words from the referral partner, but from social proof. So even if you get a referral today, you better believe they're Googling you. How do you show up? In my case, I show up number 3 on Google in the 3-pack. So the only 2 people ahead of me in my local market are companies, not even individuals. I'm the highest ranked individual if you Google best Dallas mortgage broker. But it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
So I've got hundreds of Google reviews. I post on my Google business page often. I have YouTube that I post at least twice a week on. And then I'm taking the transcripts of those YouTube videos and turning them to SEO optimized blog articles for SEO purposes.
Sure.
Well, I'm putting like intentional effort around it. So if you're asking like how, like they're Googling you. So you get a referral, they're Googling you. Your systems had better make it a referable experience. So create the referable experience. And then after closing, you need to do a post-closing meeting. It could be a phone call. It doesn't have to be like a Zoom or anything, but we do it the first Thursday after closing. So I close somebody on Tuesday of this week. They're getting a call from me, well, next Thursday, essentially.
Yep.
Okay. So, and that's going to be explaining to them what comes next. Now that you're closed, any last second questions, you've had time to hopefully move in. Don't forget about that 5-star review. It would really mean a lot to me and my family if you'd put some kind words together for me. And then here's what happens next. You're going to hear from me from time to time. You're going to get this email, the monthly real estate wealth digest, to help you track and grow your net worth with real estate. I don't say it's a home bot or a home IQ or a newsletter. A monthly real estate wealth digest to help you track and grow your net worth with real estate. You will love it. And so they get that every month. They hear from me on their birthday and they hear from me for their annual financial review. Now, would I love to make quarterly phone calls to them as well? Yeah. I don't have the bandwidth to do that for thousands of people. So like some days for real, it's a struggle just to do birthday calls.
I'm sure.
Like yesterday I had 10. Today I only have 2. Like, you get the idea. So it's a lot.
Absolutely. I love the fact that on the reviews, and the reviews are super critical. I love that it's as simple as just telling them, hey, I'd appreciate you giving me a review, and it means a lot to me and my family. That is probably all you need to do. It's a very simple thing, but it's like the basic blocking and tackling that most people don't do.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a matter, it's funny you said that. So I had a mentor once, there's the book called The One Word, and he had me read it and he had me pick my word. And I said basics, because you can make a lot of money if you just master the basics. And that man bought me a paperweight. I know it's hard to see it, but it says basics on there. Oh, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be, something that you can systematize and actually commit to.
Yeah. Keep it consistent. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. So you've talked a couple times now about, this post-closing activity, and you're positioning yourself as more than just the person that's going to help them close this loan.
Right.
Beyond like that wealth building piece that you put out, how else are you showing up to position yourself in that conversation of kind of ongoing wealth building and financial stability?
Well, a lot of them are needing introductions to actual financial planners. Most of America doesn't have their wills put together. Like they need estate plans, they need all this kind of stuff. So you can be more than just the mortgage broker or the loan officer. You should be more. That's the bare minimum. So essentially, if you're helping them build wealth, you should be telling the story. So like I've got a subscription to Reader, and so I can tell when my clients' homes are hitting the market,
Yep.
and it tells me, hey, they bought here, they're listing it here. That's a multi-$100,000 gain, and the annual ROI is, I think the last one that I did about this was like 16% a year. And it's like, where else in America are you getting the that kind of return? And the key here is it's cool that happened, but if I don't talk about it, then did it really happen? If a tree fell in the woods, did it really happen? So one of my friends challenged me. She's like, "Wade, do you love your clients?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And like, does your social reflect that? It's like, sometimes. She goes, "Does it?" No. So it's like, so you gotta work that in. So you gotta story tell how you're helping build wealth. I've got another friend of mine, his entire goal is to build $1 billion of net worth for his clients. So he tracks it, and it's like, remember like the old school like thermometers that track like the fundraising goals?
Yeah.
He tracks it, and he gives updates every year. And he uses those tools to kind of calculate the gain on sale from where they bought it. And his goal, his mission is to help his clients build $1 billion of home equity. You know how awesome that is?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's also cool that he kind of holds himself to account to report that out.
Yeah, he's an amazing person. So I'm really impressed what he's done. But like those are the types of things. There are people that do things at a higher level than me. I'm not above being envious. I'm more than happy to pick their brain. Just like I'm sharing openly here, there's people that do that to me behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
you just pick the one or two things that really resonate with you, go implement it. That's the key. And then come back for more and then go implement something else.
That's right. It's not what's taught, it's what's caught.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
You've I mean, I'm just kind of teeing in on the concept of that thermometer, and I mean, you've talked about a healthy business is a reportable business, and curious what other metrics or dashboards are a must-have for tracking, whether that be kind of outbound activities or just the business in general. What do you look at?
The number one thing that loan officers can do or salespeople can do in general to really drive income is a sales activity tracker. So I didn't have this here as a prop. I literally keep this on every single day. It comes with me everywhere I go. I have completed a sales activity tracker every day of every week of every month of every year since January of 2015. So I do have all of them saved in a binder in my closet back there. Um, and that's the type of consistency over years that it takes to build a great business. And what I find is the loan officers that track their sales activity far outperform those that don't. And even though you might still have the ups and downs, what you're getting is higher highs and higher lows. So your business is going like this. You're still going to have the ebbs and flows, but the key, the number one thing people could do to drive more income is just track your sales activity with the goal of doing a little bit better each and every week. So it's the Darren Hardy compound effect
Right.
of doing it.
What is it that you're tracking as activities?
The big three, like because it's pretty big form. Okay. The big three are number of dials, number of talk tos,
Okay.
and the number of face-to-face appointments booked,
Okay.
essentially.
So those are the main ones. I'm sure you have secondary measures, but that's the three that really are the indicator of, am I
Yeah.
on track for success?
So you can see my rent is due every day poster right
Yep.
behind me. That is that is paying rent. So I have a handful of loan officers that text me every day the number of dials they made, the number of talk tos, the number of face-to-face appointments that they booked, and how many leads they received. Those are the 4 key metrics. Everything else is just gravy. Like
Hmm.
how many thank you cards you're doing, how many video messages you're doing, how many pre-approvals you did. All that's fantastic, and it needs to be tracked. If you don't track, you don't care. But if you're really looking for the bare minimum of what to track, those 4.
Gotcha. Cool. This concept you just mentioned about kind of getting 1% better every week. What are some examples of small daily improvements that can lead to massive results for LOs?
I mean, sticking to your power hour for one, hitting your theme day every day is another. Not getting distracted in your files. That's another thing. Like a lot of LOs feel like they have to be the one to do everything.
Hmm.
They have to pre-approve them. They have to do the document chasing. You don't have to do any of that. Like I kind of joke that if it involves a portal, it's not my job anymore. Now, to your point earlier, that wasn't what it was like in the beginning,
Right.
but that's what it evolved to. So like there's systems and structure in place now to where the loan officer should stick to their circle of genius, which is making the phone ring. And the ops organization should help take a lot of that other weight off of them if the LO lets them. It's not ever, I don't believe for a second, any company that's like, oh, just turn in the file and you don't have to touch it again. I call BS. Okay. But the reality is they should take the heavy lifting off of the loan officer so that the loan officer can go get that next deal.
Yeah.
And for a lot of LOs, it's really hard to let go and trust because our inclination is the second something doesn't go perfect, they want to take it all back.
Yep.
No, no. See, I told you they can't do it as good as me. Don't hire somebody and then do their job for them. Okay. Like if you want to grow, you have to have a team. If you want to go someplace fast, go alone. You want to go far, you got to go with the team. So it makes a massive difference.
There's a couple things in that stand out to me. One is that I don't think that's a unique situation to loan officers in their evolution. I mean, think about any business role; it's very similar, right? You start in that activity, doing it all yourself, and then there's a point at which it makes sense to elevate and delegate, those responsibilities. And one, you probably can find somebody that can do it better than you're doing it, and two, there's this concept of where do you apply your time, where do you get the most leverage? And so if your leverage is in finding and closing opportunities, then it makes no sense at all for you to be doing all this administrative activity. You need to figure out how to not only delegate it out, but delegate it to somebody who can improve on what you were doing.
It's funny you phrase it that way. So I run my business off of the 4 Ds. I either do it myself, delegate, defer, or delete. So the delegation piece, that needs to happen during a daily team meeting. So every day you need to be meeting with your team. If you're a team of one, just yourself, you still need to have a start time to your day and then essentially map out your must do's for the day.
Yeah.
And then the stuff you delegate, I mean, that's pretty much anything that's not on your do list. So for me, the things I'm doing, talking to and meeting with clients about financing, talking to and meeting with referral partners about partnerships, leading and training the team, and managing the money, the P&L of the business, and then my personal family budget. Those are the things I do. Now, are there other things that pop in? Of course.
Sure.
But those are where I'm spending the vast majority of my time. I delegate everything else. There's another third D of defer. Yes, I need to read the underwriting guidelines. Well, that doesn't have to be during the day when I should be prospecting, or I want to watch the Tim Brahim perfect loan process video. Yeah, that can be while I'm on the treadmill getting my step home. So defer, and then delete. The last one, delete emails, clean up your diet, your closet, your car, relationships. I mean, how many relationships do we have that are not healthy for us? Like delete, just get rid of it. So
Yeah.
that is a massive thing. That's what I'm saying. If you want to go far, you're going to have to go with a team. And if you're going to go with a team, you got to learn how to delegate properly.
I like that 4D framework. I've not heard that one before, but it feels very similar to like the Eisenhower matrix to me, which is like I've got, urgent and important in the high quadrant and, not urgent and unimportant in the low. And then those are deletes, right? I'm just ignore that and focus on
Yeah,
the things where I can affect the most leverage. Yeah.
100%.
So I'm curious based on that. I mean, are there parts of the mortgage business that you think are ripe for disruption? And that could be because there are these more trivial things. What's ripe for disruption? What's not going to ever go out of style?
I think that AI will never replace or replicate the ability to have the phone ring. That's the whole job of the loan officer. But I suspect AI over the next couple of years will impact the day-to-day operations, meaning the document gathering, the collecting, the analyzing, making sure it fits guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. I think that'll be kind of fascinating to see. I struggle to wrap my head around a future where AI makes the phone ring. So I think the sales staff will still be somewhat protected, but I bet you margins come down as a result. So that question is a perfect threat on a SWOT analysis.
Yes.
So how are you going to protect yourself and make yourself relevant in a future where AI could frankly replace a big chunk of the mortgage process?
I'm so glad you brought that up because this is something I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, um, and this maybe goes back even to the farming analogy, right? Or it's kind of what you're doing to set the stage for future growth. With AI growing so fast, and now as to seeing so much AI content creation and honestly a bunch of what they call AI slop entering the industry, like how can a loan officer position themselves to win by being both authentic and establishing human connection? Like what are the things that they can do? Because now you're just going to be overrun with AI content and it's going to be harder and harder to stand out.
See, I don't know that I agree with that. I
Okay.
think because there's going to be so much content, I think the authentic human piece will stand out. I think that the a human experience will become a premium service in the future. I don't know. I could be wrong, but here's the thing about doing a SWOT analysis. You analyze that with the what ifs, and then you put pieces in place to combat that. So I'll give you an exact example from my own business. Last year, when the NAR settlement was coming down the pipe, and remember the sky was falling, and buyers agents aren't going to exist anymore. I literally thought to myself, as part of a SWOT analysis exercise, what if I wake up one day and buyers agents don't exist? Like, how am I going to provide for my family if that's the case?
Right.
I guess I better figure out how to provide value to listing agents. Well, that's easier said than done. How the hell am I going to do that? And that's where I ended up with the MoveTube recommendation. And so what I did was I went down that path, I built that pillar. And so the whole point of this exercise is if you're right, now I'm way ahead of the curve. I've got market share, I'm insulated. Yeah, maybe I struggle when it happens, but like I'm fine. My family's still being fed. Whereas the rest of the industry would wake up in a panic, like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Well, if I'm wrong, well, now I've just built this other pillar to my business, and now my business is better than ever. So if anyone is not doing a SWOT analysis, you 100% should do a SWOT analysis and just ask ChatGPT to help you.
I was just going to ask you how many folks you think are actually doing SWOT analysis. I suspect
Almost
you are
none.
the minority.
Almost none. And as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, I had a mentor of mine basically told me, he's like, Wade, I love that you do it. He's like, you should do it twice a year. Do it every
Yeah.
6 months. Oh, okay. Because I usually just do it like right now during the very tail end of the year when I'm doing my business planning and marketing planning for the next year. But yeah, SWOT analysis. Don't sleep on it. It's a great exercise.
It's a great one. In fact, it's funny you bring it up because I we're getting ready for our annual planning, and certainly we do our SWOT analysis as a company. But I also this year asked each of my departments to do a SWOT analysis on their own department, and just use that as a conversation point so we can get in and really start to understand where do we have liabilities, where do we have great opportunities, and I think it's an amazing tool. So I'm happy you brought it up.
Well, I'm tell you, I was talking to another mentor of mine, and this was a year ago actually, and we were going through the SWOT, and he literally says with the threats, he's like, "What about your marriage?" And I'm like, "What about my marriage?" Like I got a little defensive, and he's like, "Well, if you got a divorce, it would be devastating for your business, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'd be an absolute wreck." He's like, "So that's a threat. So how are you going to strengthen that to make sure that that doesn't happen?" It's like, fair point. So weekly date nights, daily one-on-one time, 15 minutes, no screens. Like, and then he's like, "What about your health?" And I'm like, again, like, what about my health? He's like, "If you got really sick, like that would
Yeah.
hurt your business, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What are you going to do about it?" It's like, okay, trainer 3 times a week, 10,000 steps a day, track my calories. So it's and he was the very first mentor I've ever had in my 20-year career that tied the decisions that I'm making in my personal life to my business. So when every other SWOT analysis I ever did was all business this, business that. But he's like, no, no, no. Your personal life absolutely matters and affects your business. So if it's a threat and it bleeds over to business, it's a threat. So like put contingency plans in place to neutralize the threats and then amplify your strengths.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good point, Coach. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think that the threat section in a SWOT is also really intended to be kind of these external factors that are outside of your control in many cases, and
Right.
and so I think giving those consideration is really valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it certainly was, and it was very eye-opening, and it's really kind of shaped my year this year because again, that was literally December of last year, and it helped me put things into place this year that I probably wouldn't have focused on otherwise.
I got one last question for you before we wrap. So let's put you in front of a room of originators that are preparing for 2026.
Mhm.
What's the first lesson you would put on the whiteboard for them?
If I'm gonna tell someone to do something new for the first time ever, it would literally be track your sales activity. That's the hill I'm dying on. The loan officers that have better businesses than me are better at this than I am,
I think
hands
it's a
down.
I think it's a great hill to die on. I mean, it's that what gets measured gets managed, and
Yeah.
if you're not putting in the work, you're not going to get the results. And what better way to make sure you're putting in the work and to hold yourself accountable and to track it?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and because I've done that exercise for literally over a decade, I can tell you that 10 years ago, my very best weeks are my worst weeks now. So, like, it is absolutely
That's
amazing how
awesome.
much growth you can have, and I remember because my coach had me journaling back then, like, "I can't possibly do any more prospecting. This is the most prospecting that's possible." And it's not even close. Like now I have like more prospecting when I'm out on vacation, like for like spring break with my family, like more talk tos. And it's just like the birthday calls and like stuff like that. Like, but back then I thought I was doing a lot. No,
Yeah.
if you track it and then the goal is to just do a little bit better week after week, it could be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you just have to make forward progress. And that's what the rent is. And if you do that, work till you don't have to introduce yourself anymore, essentially.
I love it. It's a great place for us to land. Wade, I really appreciate you, sharing a bunch of frameworks and great coaching thoughts. And then also just the vulnerability to kind of explain, you know, the challenges you've had and how you've overcome them. Thank you for sharing all the details.
Yeah, anyone that thinks that it's all sunshine and rainbows, most people's businesses is like that crochet. The picture might look pretty good on the outside, but the back of it, it's all mangled. So don't compare my chapter 10 to your chapter 1 and vice versa. Just start with where you are, eat one bite of the elephant at a time, track your sales activity, find mentors that you can lean on, and just watch how far you can go.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wade. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Appreciate you having me.